I've toured a lot of historic houses, but I've never seen one that has so much original pieces hidden within it. There's a Victorian house in California that stands as a true time capsule frozen in time. 3 generations of the same family lived here. Some even died here, leaving behind more than 140 years of treasures that are still being discovered, cataloged, and preserved. Nearly everything inside is original, from the furniture, wallpaper, carpets, china, decor, family letters, the clothing and accessories they wore, their wedding gifts, and even the everyday little objects that are tucked inside the drawers and closets. The list is endless. And one of the reasons it's all still here is because descendants of the original family continue to care for the house to this day, preserving it as both a rare piece of Victorian history and a living family legacy. Welcome to the Cohen-Bray House, one of the most extraordinary Victorian time capsules I've ever come across. Built as a wedding present in 1884 and still filled with all of the personal objects and memories of the original family who first called this place home. Hi, I'm Allie, and welcome back to Fab Little Dish, where we celebrate historic interiors and the stories that keep these places alive. If you love historic house tours, make sure to hit thumbs up and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the amazing house tours I have planned for you. So step back in time with me today as we tour this beautifully preserved piece of history together. The Cohen-Bray House in Oakland, California still carries the legacy of the family who built it. Descendants of the original family continue to care for the home, preserve its collections, and carry its history forward. My tour was even given by a great-great-granddaughter of the man who built this house for his own daughter. And before the tour even began, I met her cousin working out in the garden, so right away I could feel how deep the family ties run throughout this home. The house was built between 1882 and 1884 by Julia Moses Bray and Watson A. Bray as a wedding gift for their daughter, Emma Bray, when she married Alfred H. Cohen, an attorney from another prominent Bay Area family. Both families had become successful during the gold rush era by building the systems that supported the influx of people coming into California, supplying the goods, transportation, and infrastructure throughout the Bay Area. Emma's father, Watson Bray, was a successful grain and commodities merchant, and the house was built on land known as Oak Tree Farm, just across the street from the Bray family estate. Alfred Cohen came from an equally influential family. His father, A.A. Cohen, purchased a struggling railroad and ferry system in 1863 and turned it into the first successful rail and ferry network in Alameda County. He later sold it to the Central Pacific Railroad Company and became the company's chief attorney, connecting the family's story to the larger transportation history of the Bay Area and the completion of the western portion of the Transcontinental Railroad. So this house really begins as the merging of two families whose fortunes were tied to the rise of California itself through commodities, transportation, law, land, and the explosive growth of the Bay Area in the 19th century. Emma and Alfred's wedding took place on February 24, 1884, with more than 300 guests attending the reception at her parents' home. After the reception, instead of immediately leaving for their honeymoon, Emma and Alfred slipped across the street to their brand new house and watched their wedding guests leave from inside their new home. You can almost feel their excitement as a newly married couple anxious to start their new lives together in this very house. Emma and Alfred lived here for the rest of their lives, and their 4 children, Alfreda, Marion, Douglas, and Edith Emelita, were born right here in this home. After Alfred died in 1925, the family's income drastically changed, but Emma remained here until her death in 1945. The youngest daughter, Edith Emelita, continued living in the home for her entire life until her death in 1988 when she was 90 years old. This 1884 home is a beautiful example of the stick Eastlake style, which was popular in the 1870s and 1880s. You can see it in the strong vertical lines, tall narrow proportions, brackets, carved details, and layered woodwork across the exterior. There's such a sense of height to the house, especially when you're standing below it and looking up towards the tower. Its elongated shape almost makes you feel small in comparison, giving the exterior this very dramatic presence before you even step inside. The house has 17 rooms, 1 bathroom, 5 fireplaces, and an incredible attic still filled with original treasures stored there by the family over generations. And it's rare that house tours actually allow you to go up inside of the attic, but that's another thing that makes the Cohen-Bray House that much more unique. It serves as more of an education center to really take you back in time. So because of that, they allow you to go in spaces that you typically wouldn't normally go inside. The property also includes a half-acre garden, and even the grounds still feel like part of the home's preserved world. It's filled with native trees, seasonal vegetables, hops, wildflowers, 2 beehives, rose bushes, and other florals, some of which date back to the home's earliest years in 1884. Even the gardens and the grounds help carry you back into another era, making the entire property feel deeply connected to the time when this house was originally constructed. The entry hall immediately sets the tone for the entire house. We're instantly surrounded by richly carved redwood, but this isn't just ordinary redwood, it's curly redwood, a very rare wood milled from the end of a virgin redwood tree at the Navarro Mill in Mendocino County. This material was given to Emma Bray and Alfred Cohen as a wedding present by Emma's first cousin, who actually owned the mill, adding another layer to the wedding present of the house itself. The woodwork here is absolutely stunning. You can really see the Eastlake influence in the geometric paneling, the vertical emphasis of the lines here, and the tall, narrow proportions that draw your eye upward. Even the ceiling is treated like a true showpiece, with deeply paneled, coffered sections overhead. The panels were first laid out and assembled upside down on the floor, then carefully hoisted up and locked into place with poles. So the precision required to create something this intricate and beautiful really speaks to the level of craftsmanship that went into the entire house, right from the start. And the pieces of stained glass in here really bring in some beautiful bursts of color against all of the dark woodwork. The reds, blues, golds, and deep colors from the wood catch the light in such a striking way that makes the entire room shine. My tour guide, who was the great-great-granddaughter of the man who commissioned this home for his daughter, she was telling me they just had the woodwork in here cleaned, which removed years of smoke and soot from coal, which also brought back so much of the depth, warmth, and richness from the original redwood. Standing here, you almost feel like you're being wrapped inside the trunk of a giant redwood tree, making the whole entryway feel deeply rooted in some of California's most precious materials. And even these sliding pocket doors are remarkably intact. They still open and close as they did when the house was first built. This is the level of detail that immediately shows you how much of this home has truly survived, and it really sets the stage for the extraordinary level of preservation that we're about to see in each room from here on out. This is the parlor, a place where guests would have been received, conversations would have unfolded, parties would have taken place, and the family's taste immediately would have been on full display right here. Much of this is exactly how it looked during the late 1880s. The Cohen-Bray House is known for its original wallpaper, carpeting, stained glass woodwork, and furnishings, which immediately is shown in this room, which is also incredibly rare for a Victorian home from this period. Because of these original details, you really feel connected to the home and the people who lived here. So is everything, or all the decor, and is it all original?
Everything you see is original unless I tell you it isn't.
That's crazy. And the wallpaper, everything.
Absolutely. There's a wallpaper changes upstairs.
Oh, I love this wallpaper. You can really see the influence of the aesthetic movement in here, especially in the layered wallpaper patterns, the decorative frieze near the ceiling, and how the designs of the wallpaper are even echoed in the carvings of the sliding pocket doors themselves. We see florals and even details on the locks and hardware. Throughout this room, there's a beautiful mix of florals, soft color, and ornamentation throughout that gives the space so much depth and brightness. The tall windows here bring in this very beautiful filtered light, and the sheer curtains help soften the light throughout the entire room. And one of the most meaningful pieces in this room is this huge mirror, which came from A.H. Cohen's parents' home in Alameda, Fernside, which burned down in 1897. This mirror was rescued from that house before making its way here, and it actually used to set on top of a fireplace mantle in that mansion. So it's crazy to think that they were able to rescue this and bring it here before the whole place burned down. It's a surviving fragment of another family home, carrying part of the Cohen family's history into this one. The carpeting in here, much like the rest of the floors in the house, are original. These wallpaper patterns, which are original to the Victorian era, were noticed by so many. Even Bruce Bradbury of the famous Bradbury and Bradbury art wallpapers came to this house seeking inspiration for his wallpaper designs. When he was starting out his company, he was visiting old Victorians throughout the Bay Area, seeking design inspiration from the historic wallpaper patterns throughout the homes. When he stepped inside this one, he was apparently so overwhelmed and taken aback by how beautifully preserved everything was in here that he actually bent down and kissed the ground. I love that story because it says so much about the house. To someone who truly understood Victorian interiors and the beauties held within, this wasn't just some ordinary home for him to get some inspiration from. He saw the rareness that is within the Cohen-Bray House. It literally feels like you're stepping back in time, and there is no better inspiration that you can gain out there than something directly from the source like this. And over here, they've even saved calling cards, which were a social ritual during the Victorian era.
These are Cohen cards for A.A. Cohen. So this is A.A. Cohen's card. Oh, okay. We have, everything was saved. We have a whole box of just calling cards.
Wow. A small detail that says a lot by allowing you to truly feel like you're being transported back in time. This is the library, a room that feels a little warmer, darker, and more intimate compared to the bright and formal space that we just saw in the parlor. And I love how the built-in bookcases really frame the fireplace and the entire room itself. On the mantle is one of the most special pieces in the home, an antique handcrafted onyx Tiffany clock, which was given to Emma Bray and Alfred H. Cohen as a wedding present. It still sits here on the library mantle, and my guide even let it chime for me so I could hear what the family heard every hour as this went off.
It doesn't keep time, but
It still plays
the
music.
time works, and here's
Oh, cool.
the key for it.
Above us, we see another original brass gasolier, a lighting fixture designed for gas and later adapted for electricity as the technology and times changed. Details like this remind us of how these homes evolved with modern conveniences while still holding on to their original character. And once again, we see extraordinary woodwork that makes the Cohen-Bray House so incredibly unique. The house is known for its carved curly redwood paneling and pocket doors, and in this darker room, the wood gives everything a different kind of depth and richness. My guide Nancy even lit up the door with her phone so I could see the curly redwood more clearly, and I'm so grateful for that because it really let me appreciate the actual look of the wood and what makes it so rare. And the fireplace in here is also beautiful. It has English tiles on it with scenes inspired by the writings of Sir Walter Scott. Victorians love to tell stories through their objects and their surfaces. The window in here was in the middle of restoration during my visit. Mark, the groundskeeper, actually lives on site and is constantly working on preservation projects throughout the home. Another reason why this place is as remarkable as it is. Since this was my second time visiting the house, I'm showing here some earlier footage from when the window was still in place, so we can see both before and during the restoration process. Another reminder that preserving a house like this is never truly finished. It's an ongoing labor of love, requiring constant care, one detail and one project at a time.
This is a good story. This is a picture. This is Emma, whose house this was, sitting in this chair.
Oh, cool.
With our mom.
Aww.
And at the wedding
Pretty.
party. Yeah.
Oh, she's gorgeous.
Fans and cherry blossoms.
So pretty.
So that was never seen the light of day.
Wow.
There's no sun on it.
So it's
But
just...
lots of
This is the dining room, the space where the family would have gathered for meals, holidays, and celebrations. And again, what makes this space so remarkable is how much of the room still belongs to the people who actually lived here. The furniture, china, textiles, portraits, and decorative objects throughout were all part of the family's actual life that took place in this home. Each year, this place catalogs hundreds of items on their website, and this room has a ton of details in it that I can't even speak to. So make sure you check out the link that I've included in the description if you want to see any of these pieces of china, the year that they were created, and where they originated from. It's all online, so make sure to check that out if you're interested. The woodwork that was right around this doorway really stood out to me because it automatically connects to the woodwork that we saw in the entry hall. It has similar carvings in it, the floral reliefs. It just has that same love of pattern, craft, and ornamentation that's carried from room to room. It really gives the whole lower floor a cohesive feel. And the fireplace here, which is also filled with original Victorian tile work, includes beautiful scenes and floral details that turn it into another place to tell a story. Each fireplace in here just truly has its own personality. This fireplace screen is also gorgeous. It's a Chinese embroidered silk fire screen set into carved ebony with mother-of-pearl inlay. And around the room, we see more pieces of family history. Photos of Emma's parents hang on the wall, and on the mantle, there's family photographs, including A.A. Cohen and A.H. Cohen. Above the fireplace is a portrait connected to the Bray side of the family, tying both family lines directly into this room. And another thing that makes this dining room feel so alive, between the warm colors, the decorated fireplace, the family portraits, the china, original teacups, and even the original table right here at the center, this room makes you feel like you're sitting right here with the family who once called this place home, where you can feel part of the celebrations that took place here and all of the memories that were created right here in this room. As we move into the upstairs hallway, the house starts to shift from the more formal public areas used for display into the spaces where the family actually lived day to day. Downstairs was where guests were received and where they entertained, which is part of why those rooms remain so pristine. But upstairs, this is where more of the private family life unfolded, where the children's rooms and other bedrooms are, where the personal collections were kept, including clothing, photographs, letters, and all of the everyday pieces that really tell us who this family was. These large drawers hold original family photographs, documents, and objects that are still being cataloged and organized to this day. It really gives you a sense that this house is an active family archive that's continuing to unfold. This is also where we see a Bradbury and Bradbury wallpaper display, which shows patterns that were inspired from the original designs found throughout this house. And this one right here was inspired by the wallpaper and color scheme that was in the dining room. That instantly stood out to me because I felt the presence of the dining room just looking at this little piece of designed wallpaper. This is the master bedroom, originally used by Emma Bray Cohen and Alfred H. Cohen. And this is one of those rooms that reminds you that the entire home is such an incredible time capsule because there is so many collections just preserved and cataloged right here in this room. It's almost overwhelming. Since this house remained in the same family for generations, it contains so many personal possessions from the original family who lived here, including things that even belonged to Emma Bray Cohen and Alfred H. Cohen's parents. So some of the stuff in here predates the house itself, which is incredible. Even the bed still has the original lace bedspread that the original couple used when this was their bedroom. There's quilts here that were gifted to them as well, and they all date into the late 1800s. Details like this are incredibly rare to see in houses because textiles are usually some of the first things to fade, fall apart, or just disappear over time. So I love that these are all still here, and we don't really know how long they're going to be here for. So it's truly a treat to be able to capture them for you here right now. Right here in this dresser, there are so many small personal objects, photographs, accessories, just everyday items that really make this space feel like someone's still living in it. The dresser is actually filled with accessories and personal pieces, and I love seeing them displayed here because it gives you an intimate step back through time. And right here is where I was able to scan a QR code and see how a lot of these items are being cataloged, but everything has been logged and accounted for, which again is incredible. Right over here, there's a little sitting area with original linen curtains that are still hanging in place. They've been cleaned and cared for over the years, but the fact that they're still here in this room where they originally were hung is just remarkable. Again, it's all of these little details that make you feel like you're hanging out with the family themselves as they were living here. The details in here really just make the place feel so alive. This bathroom is one of the areas of the house that has seen the most updates over time. The floor has changed because the sun had rotted out the vinyl flooring, so it's been replaced. Also, the tile's been replaced to this blue and white color scheme that reflected more of Emelita's taste, since it ended up being her home after her parents passed away. She loved blue and white. You can really just feel her personality in this little bathroom. I love it, and especially because her embroidered towels are even still hanging up here. All these little details that make this place still feel very lived in and special. And this is Emelita's bedroom. Edith Emelita Cohen, who liked to go by Emelita, she was the youngest of the Cohen children, born on May 15th, 1898. She lived here for her entire life until she died at the age of 90 in 1988. So while much of the Cohen-Bray House takes us back to the 1880s, this room also carries the story of the family well into the 20th century. This is one of those few spaces in the house where the wallpaper actually was replaced, but even that has become part of the home's preservation story. The room was re-wallpapered in the late 1970s by Bruce Bradbury as a thank you gift, who came here seeking inspiration for his wallpaper designs as he was starting out his company. The design includes a William Morris-inspired sunflower pattern and this dramatic peacock frieze, which gives the room a very layered arts and crafts feeling. I love the way this room looks. It does look very different compared to the rest of the house, but it's also such a nod to how this home has served as inspiration for others in so many different ways. The fireplace tile work in here, which is of course original, is also very similar to a pattern that we saw at the Haas Lilienthal house last week. And it's an indication of the designs and styles that were popular and circulating in Bay Area homes throughout this time period. There's details in here that are also incredibly personal to Emelita and truly make this space hers. There's a small cabinet here with a stash of brandy that she kept just in case, and there's even ashes of her favorite dog in this old coffee tin. There's also photos of a dear companion that stayed here in the house with Emelita, her friend Kit.
Of Emelita's friend Kit.
Oh,
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah.
who was the first female district attorney in Alameda and then went on to practice in Modesto, which is where my grandparents live, and also where the lovely McHenry Mansion is that I've toured a couple different times now here on this channel. And because there's so many intimate little personal details throughout here, I don't just feel like I'm seeing Emelita's space. I feel like I'm actually getting to know her personally by standing in her room, surrounded by everything that she surrounded herself with when she lived here. The books in this room and the ones right out in the hallway are still being cataloged as well. The closets have so much family clothing in them that also need to be organized and cataloged, and even smaller personal objects here have been preserved. There's almost something overwhelming about realizing how much within this home still needs to be recorded. It is such a piece of living history, this house. I cannot emphasize that enough. This is the guest bedroom. It was originally used by Alfreda and Marion Cohen, Emelita's older sisters and the daughters of Emma and Alfred Cohen. Marion was married in 1918, Alfreda later married in 1925, and once the sisters left home and began their own lives, this room became more of a spare bedroom. And today, it holds some of the family's many collections that are, again, cataloged, organized, and recorded for us to enjoy. There's letters, greeting cards, postcards, documents, more clothing, accessories, books, toys, and other personal objects that are. The wallpaper in here has been redone, and the seashell motif is a sweet nod to their father, Alfred, who had ties to the water and maritime life in Alameda. It gives the room a very soft, personal feeling while still staying connected to the story of the family. And I keep saying this, but again, it's just one of the most remarkable things about this house, how it is preserving an entire family archive filled with elements from the Victorian era and then some. Here we also get a glimpse at Emelita's creative side. In the 1930s, she made these linoleum block prints, and some of these designs were used to create greeting cards that she actually sold. There's also delicate lace, dresses, garments, and handmade pieces that are preserved here, along with children's books, dolls, and other vintage antique keepsakes, including this early Winnie the Pooh stuffed animal. And I love Pooh Bear oh so much, so this especially made me excited to see.
There's actually a Winnie.
My God, oh wow, how old is he?
I don't know, well,
Oh my goodness.
it's well loved.
I have a Pooh Bear and he's very well loved too. Here we see Emma Bray's ticket book from the 1915 Panama Pacific Exposition in San Francisco, with her picture still attached to it. The exposition was huge. It was a big moment for the Bay Area, celebrating the Panama Canal and showing how San Francisco had rebuilt itself after the 1906 earthquake. It's such a piece of Bay Area history that also has such a personal element weaved throughout, because it shows something that Emma actually carried and saved, and it shows things that she was interested in. She collected lots of different postcards when she was here, all of which have been recorded online for you to be able to look through. Here's a little snapshot of some of them, but if you want to see any of them in detail, make sure to hit that link that I've included in the description. This is the tower room, which might have been used as a bedroom at one time. Nancy, my tour guide, thinks it might have been her grandfather's room based on the wallpaper that are in here and just accounts from other family members. There's a small balcony right here outside that they are currently in the process of restoring. Another reminder that there's always a project on the horizon here at the Cohen-Bray House. But what makes this particular part of the house especially fascinating is its connection to the history of early radios and World War I. Alfred H. Cohen was not only an attorney, he was also deeply interested in wireless technology. What began as a personal hobby eventually became something so much more significant. He built an amateur wireless station experimenting with long-distance radio transmissions at a time when this technology was still new and almost magical to everyone experiencing it. and according to a newspaper account from this period, his home station was powerful enough to pick up radio signals from across the world, including Berlin, the Eiffel Tower, Japan, Cuba, and naval stations across the Pacific and the Atlantic. During World War I, the government reportedly investigated the station and placed it under the supervision of a United States Navy operator, folding its equipment into the country's wartime radio network. There was actually someone from the Navy that sat right here listening to what was coming through on the radio, in case top secret information might have been revealed. I find that detail absolutely fascinating because it connects this house to an incredible moment when private experimentation, new technology, and world events all collided right alongside with one another right here inside this house in Oakland. It's crazy.
This is cool. I like stuff like this.
This attic was honestly one of the parts of the tour that took my breath away.
Wow.
Because up here, the house feels less like a museum and more like a place where generations of family life were simply tucked away and preserved. Everywhere you look, there are just time capsule treasures hidden throughout. Old, vintage, wicker antique furniture, chairs, bed frames, trunks, sewing machines, household objects, and things that normally would have been discarded or sold off are all here, remaining unchanged over time. There's also some carpet fragments that have been brought in here from other 19th century Victorian homes that were demolished in San Francisco and throughout the Bay Area, and that adds another layer to the story of just what's preserved in this house. The attic contains not just things from the Cohen-Bray House, but objects and things from homes that once surrounded it, which is just making this space just that much more powerful. It's really connected to the history of Victorian architecture in the Bay Area itself rather than singling in on this home alone. The rooms downstairs show us how the family lived, but this attic up here shows us what survived, the things that were so meaningful, not just in this house, but in others surrounding it. We only get a quick look at the kitchen during the tour, but even in here, the house has these incredible moments that again remind you you're right inside a time capsule. This is the original 1883 Lock and Montague cast iron range, which had actually been covered up since 1925 with a dish cabinet placed right on top of it. When it was uncovered, it became almost like an archaeological discovery. Right inside the house, they found old newspapers dating from the 1920s, wadded around matches and used as fire starters, along with coal pieces, eggshells, onion skins, chicken bones, and even hairpins. These tiny traces of everyday life was uncovered after years and years of being left behind. And this is the butler's pantry, which still holds so many of the original pieces of family china, much of it still waiting to be fully cataloged. Another reminder that this place is still actively being uncovered, organized, and really understood. Every drawer, cabinet, and shelf seems to hold another piece of the family's story and of the history of the times when they lived here. And right here in this pantry, there's even some original Christmas recipes that were written right on the wall, which is a really small but incredible detail. It's an indication of the types of traditions that happened right here under this roof, year after year. The meals, holidays, recipes, and routines that were passed down through the family. Nancy, our guide, told me that they still bake some of these recipes each and every year, which I absolutely love, because it's a beautiful way of keeping the house alive. by continuing the traditions that are connected to the house itself. This space is used as more of a small working office now, but originally this was the breakfast room. And you can just imagine how lovely it must have been in the mornings, sitting here with the light pouring in, looking out towards the garden, drinking your coffee, and eating breakfast with a view of the same grounds where fruits, vegetables, herbs, and flowers were growing just outside, and probably used to make the meal that you were eating. It's a quiet, more everyday kind of space. This is technically the living room. It was originally listed on the floor plans as the smoking room, but after the 1906 earthquake, this became one of the main areas of the house that was remodeled and expanded. That's why this part of the home feels so different than the traditional Victorian rooms that we saw earlier on the first level. Here we see more of an early 20th century craftsman influence, darker wood, a more rustic feeling, and a space that just feels less formal and more relaxed. Over time, it became the family's living room, a place to gather, unwind, read, talk, and spend time away from the more formal spaces of the house. You can really feel the shift in the atmosphere here too, with all of the dark wood paneling, exposed brick fireplace, bookshelves, antlers, landscape paintings. The room has a cozy, collected feeling, and it was actually designed to resemble a hunting lodge tucked right inside the house. And I feel that vibe. Because of the earthquake damage that was done around the chimneys in this space, it gave the family a reason to alter the layout and rethink how this part of the house would function. So once again, we're seeing the home evolve over time because of real events and history that shaped how the family used this space. And a personal story that I loved hearing about this room is how they decorated this space around and after Christmas. The family would take Christmas trees that hadn't been sold from a local Christmas tree lot, and they would hang them from the ceiling, turning the whole room into something that felt almost like a forest indoors. And I love that image because it shows such a playful, carefree side of the family, which also helps you get to know another side of them. When you leave the Cohen-Bray House, you don't just feel like you've toured any historic home. You feel like you actually got to know the people who lived here, and you truly feel like you stepped back in time. That's because so much of their world still exists inside as they saw it. The furniture they used, the clothes they wore, the letters they saved and wrote to each other, the wedding gifts they received, and all of the little everyday objects that usually disappear over time. I've toured a lot of historic homes, but I don't think I've ever stepped inside one with this many original pieces still in place. Thousands of objects spanning more than a century of family life are still being discovered, cataloged, and preserved. That's what makes this house so incredibly rare and special. If you want to experience what it might have felt like to live within the Victorian era, to study the design, the decor, craftsmanship, and uncover all of the personal belongings that remain almost exactly where generations of one family left them, then come and experience the Cohen-Bray House here for yourselves. I promise it will not disappoint. As always, thank you for watching and for joining me on this truly special house tour. A huge shout out to Nancy and the rest of the people who keep this home so incredibly preserved. Until next week, my friends, keep enjoying the beauty of vintage home. Au revoir.